Welcome back to the Reptiles With Podcast. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different, a little bit of a different speed. We're going to have a couple people popping in, but this is the Reptiles With Squad. I wanted to do something a little bit special with the members today and a couple of other guests. And pretty much the idea was, working on community building. We're actually pretty much caught up with episodes that we have banked. And I was like, okay, how can we figure out some creative ways to catch up on some episodes? Because as you can see, Chuck's not here. And because of that, we're going to start running into like some lapses between weekends that we can't record.
Mm-hmm.
So are you guys aware of what Chuck's doing right now?
Sort of. I follow him on most socials.
Okay, so Chuck right now is in Puerto Rico.
All right, so you probably noticed I'm not on the podcast today, and that's because I flew all the way to Puerto Rico to record a documentary on reticulated pythons being invasive here. I have been so successful. My friends have been great, and I can't wait to show you guys exactly what I have found. There is so much into it. I hope Eric and Yoshii are not boring your fucking ear off. Them fuckers are so boring in the AC right now. I'm fucking sweating my ass here like a real Puerto Rican. Them boys, white. Other than that, thank you guys. Keep watching. Love y'all.
Originally, there was a time where Eric, Chuck, Tino, and I, we were very involved with something that was going on here locally with a preserve called Split Oak. And in that, we had the idea like, oh, maybe we should make a documentary. I think it was actually around the time where the ball python documentary from Dave Kaufman came out.
It was just after that, and we pretty much got onto the documentary train. It's like, guys, we can do this too.
Also came
Go
out.
for Games did their thing, and then in the mix of us trying to get together with them, we kind of had our own idea to start doing something with Split Oak.
Yeah.
Just because it was all kind of like, that was, at least with us, that was the first big like FWC versus like nature conflict.
Yeah.
So it was like really big news for a long time. So we thought we could hop on that train and see what we could do, but things kind of like
things got
fizzled.
busy. I
got
lost
busy
my
and
job.
stuff.
You left your job. Tino started a new job.
These jobs, man, they get in the way of everything.
Yeah. It was a lot of stuff happening back to back. But like I remember the first couple meetings that we had about that documentary, and like for me personally,
we had an idea, like we had vision and everything.
Yeah,
especially you. So
dude, I literally like it all just came to me. It was like I saw storyboards, I started like researching
the logo was sick.
Yeah. And we had a couple meetings, and I was like, oh, we can go by this, and Tino had like a bunch of his own stuff, and like it really seemed like a reality. But in that, after everything kind of like phased out, some of us ended up still with the itch to do the documentary, and Chuck is one of them. And I know that Bad Bunny had released a new record, and it had a lot to do with Puerto Rico and representation and stuff. A lot of invasive species were coming up in Puerto Rico, and Chuck got really passionate about it. And he's like, I know what I'm going to do for my documentary. And I was like, dude, yes.
And he's doing it. So
yeah, and right now he's there doing the thing, man. And then as far as us, I mean, I know that I have an idea to do something that I'm not sure I can talk about just yet, but you overheard it a little bit.
In the past, maybe.
Yeah, with Tyler. I told Tyler about it.
Oh, I can't remember off the top of my head, so.
Yeah. But anyways, how are you guys doing? I think it's right now is a good time for you guys to introduce yourselves.
I'm Michael Morgan. I'm actually a school teacher. It's like on my third career, man. So I started in the Navy, and after the Navy did medical, and after the COVID thing, I said I got to get out of the medical field and went to teaching middle school. And with that, now I'm just trying to share my love for animals with the middle schoolers and trying to teach them how to do it properly. And
how's that going for you?
It's doing good, man. I had a principal that's very open, and she's allowing me to bring the club to the school, and so the thing is, sometimes I don't know if she knows how many animals I have in the classroom, but everybody who stops by the classroom, man, they want to stop in and see Mr. Morgan's mini zoo. And
that's really cool.
It's really it's exciting. They come in, at first, man, they're afraid of some of the animals I have, and after spending like 10 or 15 minutes with them, they're holding them and touching them, and they're not afraid of them anymore. So it's exciting, man.
That's really cool, because one of the biggest reasons why I ended up getting like balls deep into reptiles is because I had a middle school teacher that basically did the same thing. He was a herpetologist, and he literally had so many random reptile things in his cabinet, and he had a bunch of reptiles as like class pets and stuff. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, mine ranges anywhere from blue death fainting beetles to Madagascar hissing cockroaches, the ball python, a hedgehog, toad. I mean, I try to keep a little bit of everything to allow everybody to experience something
that's
they
really
may
cool,
have,
man. That's some good shit.
Yeah, it's good stuff, man.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. And actually, so something that him and I, because we met him, I think, originally at the Jacksonville show. And
Yes.
correct. And something that he, after talking for a little bit back and forth, he started watching a lot of the podcasts, and he found the stuff that we were talking about, Keepers for Conservation. And he's like, oh, it's crazy how like it's like both a similar idea. And, he wants us to potentially in the future, like maybe we can go meet, either do something like this where we're meeting the kids that are part of this club, or we go over there and we could, have an open conversation about,
that's pretty cool.
And the wildlife and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's cool. I like it.
Yeah, man. So the club, I don't know if I mentioned the club name. The club's name is Critter Keepers and Animal Conservation.
That's cool.
And the whole tagline is to replace fear with respect.
Yes, very cool.
All right, my name is Jourdan. I haven't been in a reptile keeping for too long. It's probably been almost a year now.
All right.
Right now I just
Welcome.
keep on ball python. Thank you, I appreciate it. I started watching Bob Bledsoe for a while, so that was like my introduction to reptile keeping.
Okay.
Slowly after that, I found you guys on Spotify, and after that, I just didn't die. I remember.
Hell yeah,
sir.
Yes.
No, I messaged Yoshii about it a couple times, but after watching you guys, I figured out I like more than ball pythons. So now I actually have like a whole list in my phones of stuff that I want to keep. And a lot of it's like isopods, snakes, lizards.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Yoshii, couple frogs.
No, listen. He's getting better with the frogs.
I am getting a little bit better with these frogs. I've spoken about it briefly, and he's in here, but he has his camera off. And there he is. There we go. Quality Bred Exotics. He got me and my other friend Tyler, and he convinced us to get some white tree frogs. So we do have those. Today
Nice.
I did get to tackle some bullfrogs.
Yeah, I'm surprised you did that.
Toads and stuff like that. That were invading my ponds, and I was hoping that nobody ate some baby turtles, so I did get to do that. Mr. Aiden Potter.
My name's Aiden Potter. I've been keeping reptiles for probably, about 10 years now. Started when I was young. I took a little bit of a break and it was funny you mentioned that you were in the Navy. I was in the Marine Corps. So took a little bit of a break there. But then, I've been keeping ever since. I kind of started being interested in them because of a program close to me, similar to what our friend here is doing with his club. There was a program close to me where it's just an exotic animal education company. They travel to different schools, after-school programs, parks around the city, and just really around the whole state. And I absolutely fell in love. And so been keeping pretty much since then. Begged my mom. My mom was always pretty supportive of it. That's good. Long as I did my research and stuff like that. Nowadays, I actually work for that company.
Ooh, that's cool.
So that's pretty fun to look back at old pictures and show them to my coworkers. But I work for them, and then I'm self-employed as well, doing construction. And then I think I'm at like 17 to 21 reptiles. The unknowns are mourning geckos. I never quite know how many babies are in there.
I don't think anybody knows how many mourning geckos they have, to be honest with you.
Nope. It's impossible.
What kind of stuff you keep?
But I've got morning geckos, a whole bunch of small lizards, all the way to a golden tegu. My wife's not a big snake person. She tolerates the two that I have. And bless her soul, she lets me do a lot of stuff, but snakes are kind of a hard line. So I've only got a ball python and a California king snake. But most of my animals are rescues, because that's another thing that I'm starting to get into. Me and some associates are trying to start a reptile rescue in our community.
Nice.
Quality Bred Tyler.
Who the fuck?
It's time. Unmute yourself, my man.
All right, what is up, everybody? How we doing?
What's up, man?
My name is Tyler. What's up?
The
What's
King of
up?
Palm
My name's
Street.
Tyler.
That's the
I
King
run
of Palm
King of Palm Street's crazy. That's what I'm actually listing stuff right now. But I started with reptiles. When I was a kid, I was born into it. My dad was a wildlife biologist, so I grew up studying and researching animals and releasing them back into their native environments. And I kind of went off and started doing my own thing when I was 11, and started volunteering at a pet store, basically making my feeders for my pets that I had. And now I moved to Florida back in 2018 and started up Quality Bred Exotics as my own company about 3 years ago. And it's been going pretty well. We do a lot of educational shows all over Florida. I breed a lot of different species of tree frogs, monitors, weird gecko species. I got kind of a good variety going.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. All right, so
Nice.
are you guys familiar with our ever-revolving cast? Obviously, we have Eric and I, Chuck. Do you guys remember Tyler?
I remember Tyler.
All right, I'm going to bring him in.
Oh, God.
It's Tyler.
It's Tyler time.
Oh my
Hello?
God.
Hello?
Hello.
I'm still trying to get you a sticker, my man.
Am I through on it? Hello? He's touching it. It looks like he's touching me through the screen.
Hold on.
Wait, let me mute my TV.
Yeah, mute your TV.
I'm gonna get copyright
Sorry.
strikes.
All right, Tyler, what's up, man?
How's it going?
All right,
Here,
so
see
if
my
any of you
phone.
guys have any questions for us right now would be the time, and then I'm going to bring in our next guest.
I have a question for Eric.
What's up?
What's the question?
Eric, how's the job going so far?
Honestly, pretty good. Really
That's
good.
Awesome. What's your
Yeah.
favorite animal there so far?
Good question.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know. I got a few.
Okay. That's all.
Wait, what do you say?
That doesn't help.
I know it doesn't help. I'm thinking out loud. There's a really cool guy named Spike. He's a Sika deer.
What's a
He's
Sika
cool.
deer?
It's a species of deer.
Oh.
I mean, he's just a deer, but the thing is, what's really sad is that once he's out of velvet, he's gonna be really mean.
Out of velvet?
Yeah. So deer shed their antlers every year,
Uh-huh.
and when they grow back, they get furry and fuzzy.
Uh-huh.
Once that fuzz comes off, like they shed it off, and the antlers are like solid.
Oh.
That's kind of like when they go into rut. So it's all they want to do is breed and kill.
Ooh, me too.
So-
Crazy.
Sounds like you.
Exactly. Yeah. So once the fuzz comes off his antlers, he's not gonna be my homie anymore. But besides that, I guess emus. The emus are cool. They're
Yeah.
funny.
Do they do anything to each other?
No, but the ostriches do. The
Oh, what do
ostriches
they
are
do?
very freaky.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They be freaking it up?
Yeah, it's really weird. Really
Is
weird.
it?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
It's going pretty good. I
What's your least favorite animal there?
The water buffalo.
Why?
Why?
They are scary.
Oh,
They are scary animals.
Explain.
They're just huge cows with really big horns that can do damage if you're not careful.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just scary. But there's one that's really nice, so that one's cool. But the rest of them, I like to keep my distance.
Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, so mine's a little selfish, I could say, because so I can explain to these students, man. And I've had, God, man, I guess I don't know. I guess I'm one of the oldest ones here. But my first reptile, man, there was no YouTube to look up things, right? So
Mhm.
unless you were picking up that little special pamphlet from the pet store that sold you the half sick animal, there
Yeah.
was nothing to read on, you know. So now I feel like I'm just YouTubing every time I get a new animal, right? I'm just YouTubing trying to find the best care guide out there. So what would you say the best care guide? I think because other than the support from say a breeder that I would get it from, like Beachside Chameleons, man, Michael's been great. He
Yeah.
donated a chameleon to the club,
Oh,
and
nice.
anytime I have a question, man, he's right there. He'll answer it, giving me the advice.
Yeah.
But other than that, man, I'm just praying that any of these people on YouTube is giving me the right information.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
You
a
mind
good
if I
question.
answer that first?
Yeah.
So the first thing I'd say is I wouldn't go to a pet store or even sometimes your reptile specialty store.
Right.
I would say that your best bet is what you did, and you have Beachside that you could speak with, and it's going to the breeder. The breeder is not only going to know the specifics of the animal that they gave or sold you, but they're
Right.
going to be the better expert on those animals usually.
Mhm.
And then the next thing would be, I mean, YouTube's a great source. I love YouTube. I use YouTube for a lot of things, but a lot of it can be Googling where these animals are from, looking into
Right.
their habitat based on like images that you're finding and things that you're reading, checking graphs of like temperature and humidity, and seeing how you can replicate some
That's
of
what I was
those
gonna say too.
cycles.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. In captivity, but understanding that we are limited based on our styles of enclosures. So we have
Right.
to be able to mitigate certain things like airflow and correct humidity, and then size of enclosure and heat gradient. So those are the things to look at. But definitely the first step is I'd say the breeder. The breeder is the best first step.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
mean, he mentioned Bob Bledsoe earlier, so I've been watching some of his, and it's like great information. But then I went and got it to a show, and this guy donated an enclosure and said this would be perfect for your ball python. And, you know, at the time I'm like, I don't know, it's better than the 20-gallon tank I probably had for him. So I took it and I was like, what about the hot spot? Doesn't he need a basking spot? And the guy's like, no, he didn't need a basking spot. He's got the heat tape on the back. If he wants heat, he goes to the back of the enclosure. And I'm like, okay, well, that sounds different from everything else I've been getting. And I get lost with it, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely do think that there is a difference between like the actual care and just to get by with the animals. So like, for an example, I'll say like rack systems.
Right.
That's an example of like how to get by with the care. So it's like bare minimum stuff. It's not necessarily like, for example, with that basking spot, it's not necessarily a proper basking spot where they can sit under some heat. It's more so like a very utilitarian kind of simple get your heat over here type scenario. And of course,
Right.
that could pretty much go for any animal that's kept in like a very simplistic, like even a quarantine situation.
Yeah, actually, speaking kind of similar to what we're speaking about right now, and since rack systems were brought up, I have been watching, in the search of these ideas that I'm starting to get for the thing that I want to shoot, this documentary. I've been looking at a bunch of documentaries, looking at, a variety of things to get some inspiration from. And I watched one called Endangered for Entertainment. It's on Ultimate Nature Documentaries, and it pretty much talks about, pythons from the biased perspective of somebody who doesn't know much about the pet trade and sees just kind of like, he goes to a reptile show, then goes online, then goes to Florida to look for Burmese pythons, then goes to Africa to talk about ball pythons, and then he talks about how he doesn't think that racks are good. But like, you might not agree with that, but it's always interesting to hear these kinds of perspective and then be able to follow somebody along their journey and try to figure out what is good for the animal welfare and stuff like that. Yeah. Anybody else have a question before I bring in the next guests?
It's interesting that you bring up the documentaries, because one of my questions kind of revolved around the I guess we're all kind of calling it Lizard King documentary that's coming out here soon. I know you guys did an episode about it and talked kind of at length about it, but there was a sort of angle that I wasn't quite sure about. And so I know you guys talked about the fact that it's kind of going to reinforce a lot of the general public's view on reptile keeping. And the fact that it might bring about some new legislation, which some of us think is a bad thing, some of us think is just an okay thing, or even a good thing. But I'm almost wondering, this is something that I kind of thought about, was I feel like there's a big potential that it goes in a completely different direction, in meaning that it will show that these animals are living beings, and it may generate some empathy towards the animals and promote a better attitude towards them from the general public. And it's my personal thing. I don't want to get too political, but I do believe that some good legislation from people who know what they're talking about could be beneficial. And so I think it could be a net positive, at least for the animals that we say we love.
Yeah. As far as that documentary, I can't go into too much detail on it, but I do have a source, and I don't think that you're far off of the idea.
Gotcha.
That's good.
I was just wondering what you guys thought about that, or if you thought that was even a potential outcome. Because I mean, that's kind of my dream outcome, you know? I hope that people kind of look at these animals and do feel bad for them when they're kept improperly, and that they feel motivated to keep them properly.
Yeah, that's definitely a really good take. That's something that I honestly didn't really think that much about, just because, I don't know, with all the stuff that's happened, I just get so pessimistic with the reptile stuff and like reptiles with the rest of the world. But
With what?
the rest of the world. But I think that's a really, I didn't really think about it that way, just because you did bring up a good point. Like, they're going to see the stuff that happens with the animals, they'll empathize with the animals and kind of get them actually into a light in which they deserve to be in, because they are mistreated in a lot of parts of the industry.
In some cases, yeah.
You know, no one really sees the mistreatment. People only see the arrests, they only see the confiscations and stuff like that. So it's like people don't really see what it's like, what's happening as it's all going on before it hits news and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think
so I do like that take.
Yeah, I don't exactly subscribe completely to like the negative side of it, where it's just like this documentary is gonna come out and fucking ruin everything.
Yeah, I don't think it'll make legislation though, because the thing is, what laws could they pass that aren't already?
They do what they do in Europe.
Got you, but I don't know if it'll really attack too much the pet
thing.
Stuff.
Well, that's the thing. The honestly, the big fear is not them. In my opinion, the big fear is not them banning reptiles as keeping. I think the big fear is banning or stopping the way that some of these animals are kept, aka the rack system. And that's what I mean, like what they did in Europe. No more rack systems, making it harder and much more difficult to produce the number of the animals that we are producing, which therefore the price of the animals may change. And then there's just the whole thing that it can go
that whole rabbit hole.
But
Jeez.
I don't really subscribe to the negative that it's going to be the end of things, because I know that the guy making those documentaries is a reptile keeper. He's not a person that keeps tigers. He's not a person that keeps chimps. He is a reptile keeper.
So this will probably hit closer to home for him. So he would probably try to make it.
Yeah, for sure.
My kind of hope on you mentioned the legislation, like what new legislation could they make? I live in Indiana, and here in Indiana, you can keep any crocodilian while it is under 5 feet. And that opens the door. You can buy a Nile crocodile legally until that thing grows 5 feet. And that just opens the door for so many horrible things. Part of what I do through a connection with my job is I actually do work with a lot of crocodilians every now and then, helping at a facility that strictly is a crocodilian rescue.
Sounds
And
like human population control.
Yeah.
well, you would think, but unfortunately, it doesn't really damage humans that are mistreating them. They just
That's
get mistreated.
True.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the type of positive legislation I'm thinking of, is like
Gotcha, yeah.
permitting for any crocodilian, period.
Mhm.
Like there's you could buy a Cuvier's dwarf caiman, and that's the only one really that has the potential that might stay under 5 feet if you got a female,
Mhm.
and you keep at a pretty, maintenance level diet.
Yeah.
It's just stuff like that when I say positive legislation,
Yeah.
that's kind of what I'm
Yeah.
thinking. But even that requires nuance that a lot of lawmakers don't understand.
I think that Florida could potentially have the best case scenario for a lot of these laws, in the sense that we have a permitting system, and it's not perfect. There's a lot of issues with it, but I think that to be able to have a lot of these classes of animals, there should be some kind of training for it, because there's
Absolutely.
there's a certain amount of harm a lot of these animals can do in the general public. And the reality is sometimes animals get out, and we have to think about that responsibility. And also we have to think about the welfare, and can everybody keep a lot of these animals?
Yeah.
These are just things that I think about personally.
Mhm.
All right.
Well, let me ask you guys this.
Before you ask that, let's
Yeah.
bring in the next guests.
Okay.
Dude, can you believe we're getting sponsored by the biggest reptile company yet?
I can't. We just gotta tell Yoshii, see what he thinks.
All right, Yoshii.
Oh my God, this is not what it looks like.
This video is sponsored by Morph Market, the world's largest marketplace for reptiles, amphibians, and even arachnids. Buy directly from verified sellers. Whether you're a first-time keeper or a hobbyist, Morph Market connects you with the best in the hobby.
I use it for shipping.
Always use Morph Market for your next reptile. Let's keep on going.
All right, we all know reptiles need bugs. And what better place to look for your bugs than online, not just any place, at dubia.com, because on there, not only can you find dubia roaches, you can find hornworms, you can find mealworms, and Discord roaches for your Florida folks. And while you're at it, you can go and scrolling through on their website. They also sell really awesome front open enclosures, super easy to build. So this is a nice example of one of their 4x2s, and I'm currently working on saving up to get some of their 4x4s, so these little carpet pythons can get nice and big and look awesome.
Next guest, hello, Mr. Who is it again? Is it a solo or duo Q? Hello, Tino and Danika.
What's up? Hello. Can you hear us?
Wow.
Yep. Loud and clear.
Yes, we
Sweet.
are. We hit the blast from the past. We brought in Tino and our very close friend Danika. They came in to hang out with us, and they're two very educated people. And this was like the perfect part of the conversation to bring them in with. So I was like, all right, I need to get them
They
in the
talk the talk,
conversation.
man. They
So
know it.
go ahead. Yeah, you can ask your question right now.
Well, so you were thinking that this is going to really bring up a lot of interest and empathy for animals. Do you really think it's going to bring in more empathy for animals for people who already have empathy? Because I feel like there's a lot of people, because of their fear of snakes and these reptiles and crocodiles, that they, no matter how they're kept, they're looking at them like it's just a snake, it's just a crocodile, anyways.
I mean, that'll happen regardless, just because I know that specifically with snakes and stuff like that, people just have their I say innate just because I don't really have a better word, but they just have that like hardwired like distaste for that kind of stuff. But that is a good question. I gotta think.
I thought about that as well. The sort of like media bubble / echo chamber of are the people that will have no empathy gonna even watch it, or the people that have the potential to develop empathy for the animals, are they even going to watch it? And I hope so. I think with his track record with Tiger King, which blew up pretty big, I think with his track record, I think it'll get a pretty good audience. And so even if, say 10 10 people develop a deeper empathy for these animals, I still think that's positive. I mean, if I definitely think there are going to be some complications that arise from the documentary. But even if 10 people, that's better than no people.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Absolutely.
sure.
Absolutely.
Tino, Dan, do you have input on this?
I do. I think it's really important to kind of destigmatize the fear around reptiles. And I think that a lot of us do a lot of work through social media, clubs, other meetings, this podcast where we talk deeply about reptile issues, try to destigmatize the fear surrounding reptiles. I know personally, I have friends who are super afraid of reptiles. They see my content, they've been to my house, they've been in close contact holding snakes, and now they ask me questions all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They'll send me pictures, be like, oh, buddy was just chilling in my backyard. And I think that all of us individually can desensitize that fear, bring more awareness to these animals, and that creates the empathy that we want people to have to be susceptible to these documentaries.
Absolutely.
I think I'm going to take a more pessimistic route.
God damn it, Tino.
I know. I'm so sorry. I feel like the people that hate snakes and the people that hate crocodilians, there's already so much out there that at this point, if you're not convinced, like nothing is really going to convince you. Even in the reptile industry, you see a lot of love for reptiles and it's growing. But I'll say that love is more directed towards the still like visually appealing or harmless seeming.
You're 100% correct. Yeah.
Tree frogs will always receive love. Geckos, hognose snakes.
But nobody bats an eye at Calabar ground boas.
But yeah, good luck getting someone to sympathize for a cobra. And I feel like if people's opinions do change about the reptiles, I think it'll be more sympathy for a PETA mindset, where people will be more for their rights and be like, oh, these animals deserve to be out in the wild. Even though if I ever saw one, these people are like, if I ever saw one, I'm killing it if it enters my yard, But I think more people would probably, if there's going to be an opinion change, it's going to be more towards that direction, where more people are going to be like, yeah, they don't deserve to be in racks or enclosures. They should be out in the wild. Which, at the end of the day, is not the worst perspective to have.
Yeah, you could also argue that's
Right.
probably like a better outcome than the care for the industry.
Yeah. I think it'll be, even if I forget what his name is, the guy who directed it, who directed Tiger King and Chimp Crazy. Even if he is in the industry and he does keep turtles himself, I feel like it will not be overall positive towards the pet industry at minimum. Probably will generate some bit of sympathy, but probably not in the direction that most pet keepers would probably prefer.
Yeah. We can all agree on those. It's going to get more eyes on the scenario to like as a whole. So with that comes the wave of positives and negatives. So
Yeah.
But I
it's
agree
just
with
make
I
it
agree
bigger
with
than what it is.
I agree with Delta in this sense that what really changes people's opinions on these animals is hands-on interaction. A documentary is not going to do it. TV shows are not going to do it. Podcasts, YouTube, whatever it may be, really isn't going to do it until people get hands-on with the animals. When they're like holding a ball python or holding a gecko, they're like, you know what? Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was wrong this whole time. And I think that has a stronger impact in changing people's minds.
100%. Yeah.
So that's kind of my focus, is trying to reach these middle schoolers. I feel like they're the future politicians, the future, the people who can make a difference. So if we reach them, maybe we can at least the next 5 to 8 years make a difference in
Absolutely.
how
I know.
people see things.
I know before the 2020, whichever this last presidential election was, I know Chuck was like sending us a bunch of RFK reels because he was like holding snakes, catching snakes, releasing them back outside. He was like, guys, is this the next president? And I was like, oh, Chuck. That is not the only qualification. But yes, I agree.
That is Chuck's qualification for president.
That was enough for Chuck. He was like, that's it. That's my guy. But yeah.
I think I even sent a couple of them.
Yeah, I was sending them left and right. I'm not even going to lie.
Yep. But Michael, you have a good point. Like getting these politicians and getting people out there on the field, or so to speak, like actively like meeting them in person, and introducing them to these topics is definitely probably the best way to get positive legislature through.
Absolutely.
Jourdan,
Right now they're doing if you guys are in Florida, I don't know if you noticed, they're putting up more feelers for the Burmese python hunt that's supposed to happen this summer.
Damn.
And so that's obviously stemming from DeSantis and Rodney Barretto's mutual hatred for snakes.
I think it's even the advertisement happening in July, right?
Yeah.
I'm still not ready to go hunting Burmese pythons. So.
So my one bigger question was experience, and this is for everybody, not just for you guys, but choice-based handling for reptiles, because I mainly see it for snakes and stuff like that. I don't see it for a lot of other animals, and snakes are kind of harder to get to trust you. So I was wondering what your guys' past experiences were with that.
Oh, okay. So, sorry. Do you mind repeating the question? We were dealing with Gray getting out of the room.
No, you're all good.
One more time, yeah. My dog was...
So choice-based handling with other species, like, because normally I deal with snakes.
Yeah.
But anything other than snakes, how has choice-based handling worked with any of you if you have done it?
What do you mean by choice-based handling?
So it's like you giving them the choice of wanting to interact.
Got you. Okay. I've had the best luck with day geckos and iguanas. Those are the only two that I've ever worked with that seems to work with.
Okay.
And
because if you force it on your day geckos, they're gonna flip out.
Yeah, exactly. No, if you force it on your day gecko, it's gonna explode.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's terrible. I don't recommend it. I tried that when I was a kid, and it went terribly. But no, I've had such a strange journey with day geckos. Oh god. But I definitely. I'm trying to think. The other one that it's not necessarily choice-based handling. It's more choice-based interacting with tortoises. Tortoises, iguanas, and day geckos specifically seem to be the most receptive to that kind of stuff. And I think it's awesome.
Yeah,
because
I think that, sorry.
I'd say
Eric is definitely the best to answer this, because I lent Eric my Cuban rock iguana, and I was like, here, make this guy tame for me. I don't have the time for this. And he did a good job. Don't ask me how he's doing now.
Oh god. He took him back, and now he wants to
cage now, and things have definitely reverted. But he doesn't like lunge at me or anything. He's just
but he's still at the hip with his little.
Yeah. Sorry, you can continue what you were saying. My bad.
No, I was just saying that what I've noticed, I mean, I don't know how smart day geckos are comparatively to other geckos. I think they're the smartest ones next to some of the New Caledonian stuff, like lychees and chihuahuas, because I know they exhibit some pretty crazy intelligence.
Yeah.
But let me get my thought together on that. It's very rewarding, super rewarding, and it gets to the point you put in all that hard work to the point where it becomes the easiest animal you work with, because I can go into the day gecko's enclosure and they know to put themselves in a specific spot to jump out if they want to get the food, and they know where to sit if I'm just going into to like give them food. Same thing with the iguana. It's more so like socializing like a cat or something. It's very easy to do with those types of animals just because it's a lot of just positive experience, repetitiveness. With other types of animals, I've tried stuff like that. The turtles, I feel like they're too food motivated to even really care about anything. I love them to death, but they don't really seem too smart. So, I mean, even with the only thing I've noticed with them is that they will become more comfortable with your presence because you bring food, but they're not really looking for anything else. Because what I have noticed specifically with Cyclura, with Yoshi's Cuban, is that he'd come out, he'd ignore the food and just come up to me. So I was like, oh my God, I'm doing the thing right now. It's like, you're a little brainiac over here that actually wants to hang out with me. So that's pretty cool. But then I have a Mexican spiny tail, so they're a little different. They're a lot more skittish. She's not as fun to hang out with anymore.
It's a male. You gotta stop saying she.
It's a girl, dude.
It's a girl.
It's a girl.
A girl.
She has long hair. She wears makeup and everything.
You don't have to be able to do that. Right?
It's a girl.
Yeah.
Trying to say I wear makeup from time to time. I don't, but
anyway, we're talking.
Tino does.
We're talking about Chuckey here.
All right.
Right. Cyclura probably have the greatest soul out of any reptile in the world. I have a very deep, loving connection with them now, and I miss him very much. Even though he's like right outside, I can always see him. He's not the same.
Right now, but still, dude.
No, but they've been the most rewarding to work with in terms of choice. they are the most receptive animal, at least I've worked with. I've never really worked with none of the snakes that I've kept have really cared much about anything besides the food motivated stuff. So when they're hungry, they'll sit, and since they know that that'll bring out food and stuff, they'll sit in their little spots. But yeah, iguanas and tortoises and the day geckos, I think those are the coolest ones to get choice-based interactions with as a whole.
Nice.
I also think part of
I'd
it
say
is
monitors are a good one. Sorry.
Yes, true. Yeah, what were you gonna say, Dan?
I was gonna say part of it is understanding like the limitations of the animal that you're working with. Snakes, I feel like I'm sure some people have done it, but I feel like it'd be harder to really get them to like come out to you. Like Eric was saying, like snakes just kind of wait around for food opportunities to come. I do tub feed my snakes personally, and there's definitely a difference in behavior. But I do also have a Kimberly Rock monitor that I've had for the last 2.5 years, and just now I'm seeing a huge improvement. It's a really long process of just being in the tank every single day. I work on a reward-based system. If I can go in and clean the glass and she doesn't do anything, I'll give her like a roach or whatever. If I can like pet down her back or play with her feet, I'll give her a roach. But every time I have to understand that she might not ever get to a point where I can just pick her up, hold her. She won't always come up. It might always just be a relationship where it's short-lived. She climbs up my arm, I give her a reward, and that might be the most that I get out of her.
And I feel like I'm in the same boat with my Pectinata because they operate very similarly. They're not as touchy-feely. They're more so like, I'll come up for this little spot, this little piece of food, and I'll go back, do my own thing. And finding that balance between what you want and what the animal is capable in terms of behavior-wise.
I think I can chime in on something that you're saying. So the issue that I had, and like joking aside, the biggest reason why I had asked Eric to help me out with the rock iguana was when I first got him, you know, the advice that I was given was more like if I was kind of like too afraid to interact with the animal. So it was more like, yo, stop being a bitch and grab the animal. So I kept doing that. And I was just like, oh, I have to stop being scared and I have to go in there to grab the animal. And I think that set Cheggy and I back. Where it was like now he only associated me with being afraid, and I was like, "Oh, I'm just trying to desensitize him," and it was like nothing that I
had that problem with Water Dragon too.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why we never got along.
So Eric had availability and time, and I was like, "Yo, can you help me out here? Because eventually this guy's going to get to a certain size where it's going to be unmanageable if this is how we're going to be interacting." And then seeing how Eric got to do it, and I know that Tyler, I literally see Tyler dying laughing at me right now, but it was just one of those things where it was just like, "Yo, like." I after seeing how Eric was going about it, I was like, okay, I needed a different way of approach for this kind of thing.
I think also to piggyback kind of on what Delta and Eric said is about knowing what animal you have and about the intelligence of the respective animal. I'm sure quality bred with the white street frogs, I think for the most part, you could be interacting with the white street frog and they not even have any idea that you're a living being. You know, it's like, and then with snakes, I think something similar. I think if the animal is capable of being target trained, then I think at that point it's a lot easier to facilitate their consent to interaction, especially since, let's say, like a leopard gecko, right? You go ahead and put in a target. And with leopard gecko, you can either add food or you can present your hand. You know, if he chooses to come onto the hand, you can go ahead and pull him out, interact with him, reward with food, and then put him back. You know, that kind of interaction is something you can facilitate, but it really does depend on the animal that you have. And it also depends on confidence as well. The smaller an animal is, the worse it's going to be to try to facilitate those behaviors, because at that point you're just some big scary loaf and they don't want anything to do with you. You know, they're going to be like, I don't want to interact with you, especially snakes. So it's like, nope, I'm done, not my thing. Once they gain that confidence where they're like, I'm a pretty big, animal. I have my methods for defending myself. They'll feel a little bit more confident. But I think if you have a reptile that's capable of being target trained, then you can facilitate that consensual handling for sure.
I'd also say too that space also helps a lot, because something that I just remembered now, I noticed just going off of me trying to work with the water dragon versus the iguanas and the day geckos and stuff, space and more hiding spots make them a lot more secure when it comes to interactions and stuff, because they'll feel more comfortable coming up, taking that risk, coming up to get food from you if they know they can go ahead and hide somewhere really, really quick. Because that was my biggest mistake with the water dragon. Because just like with Yoshii and Chuckey, when it came to just grabbing them like that, I had to do that with the water dragon for a long time. It got to the point where I would put on my gloves to go and get them back. I used to use hockey gloves to work with that animal. Okay, that was a very strange time of my life. I'm over it now. The water dragon's also over it. He's living his life.
He's
hopefully
moved on from the world.
Yeah, no, he's still around. He's just trying his best to breed. But anyway, he did not have a large enclosure for his size, and I think that really didn't help when it came to maintaining confident interactions with him, because he never felt like he could really get away from me. Whereas with the day geckos, they could dart to wherever part of the enclosure they could. Sometimes they get out of the enclosure. That's why you have to have a catch. My catch was my porch.
But like that's another element where you can facilitate like kind of a learned helplessness in the animal, where if the animal is understanding, I think this is especially the case with ball pythons, the animal understands that you're no harm to it, but at some point that there's nothing it could really do against you anyways. You know, as juveniles are going to be bitey, they're going to this, that, and the other. But it might even be a learned helplessness where they're like, no matter what I do, I don't have any say in what's happening
You
to
see
me
that
right
with
now.
snakes out in the wild even. You just go grab one, they flip out for 10 minutes, they're super wiry, and then at some point
The acceptance hits.
they're just like,
Yeah.
well, they haven't killed me yet, so I guess I'm good.
Yeah, and I think over time, like that continued learned helplessness can eventually facilitate an animal that is calm. But at the end of the day, that's not what you were mentioning, Jourdan. That's like a force thing, and they can't help themselves. You know, whereas
Animal, yeah.
if they have a choice, then it's even better for the animal.
Quality bred Tyler, do you have a question for the homies?
Or something to say?
I was just gonna pitch in on the with the monitors, especially with like my black tree monitor. I noticed when I upgraded his enclosure, because when I got him, he was in a 4x2 as a full grown tree monitor. He wasn't happy. You couldn't do nothing with him, and he was attacking the guy that owned him. So I got him here now, and he's in like an 8-foot by 7-foot enclosure I can walk around in, and
Nice.
I can go in there. I can tongue feed him and work with him, clean the cage, water, whatever I need to do, and he just sits there and watches me. Opposed to like when he was in the smaller enclosure, it's more of like a feel of threatening, where you can't really work with them and you can't really give them the opportunity to trust you, because they're just kind of stuck in a box if you don't have a big enough space.
Yeah, I agree with that 1000%. When I had my Kimberly, when I first got her, I got a little excited. She didn't have very many hides, and it was all stuff that I could like see her, even though she was hiding. And I only really saw improvement in our relationship and her behavior when I added like 5 more hides, fake plant. Now she'll let me go wash the glass. She'll be sitting right here. She won't flinch at all, because she knows at any point she could get away from me if she wanted to. And that improved our relationship a lot.
I think it's funny when I've tried to facilitate this kind of handling, and because sometimes the snake will be like pushing up against the glass to try to get out. I have sliding doors, so sometimes they'll try to like wedge themselves in between it. I'm like, okay, don't mess up your face, dude. So I'll open the enclosure, and they just sit there. They're just kind of like, oh, I can leave now? No, thanks. I don't want to. You know, and
Because they know that the outside is probably scarier than their enclosure, because they don't know that.
They didn't notice that when they were inside.
Hey, man, the realization comes sometimes at the worst spot, but you know.
I guess so. I just think it's funny. It's like you spent all this time trying to get out, and now you can, and you do nothing.
Finding the right substrate is a paramount part of reptile keeping. And if you're looking for the best cocoa option, we recommend Cocoa to Go. Cocoa can be used for reptiles, amphibians, and even plants, so they're perfect for any kind of setup. So we make sure to use Cocoa to Go. Let them know that the Reptiles With Podcast sent you. Tyler, do you like my shirt?
Reptile, hold on, it's really.
I got a shirt.
Yoshii with this AI art. What species is that?
Listen, first off, Tyler, I have your shirts that you ordered. This is your shirt.
Oh, thank you.
And yeah, I totally decided to wear it because it was either this or a Naruto shirt.
You could have gone shirtless. I'm
No, I
excited.
That's
didn't want to be
true.
shirtless.
You could have.
That one I
Yeah,
didn't
for the
want to
members,
do.
dude. That's what they want.
My stream would have
For the
been shaking a
members.
lot then if you would have been shirtless.
Tino and Dan, what have you been up to? How are you guys doing?
Been chilling, working a lot. We've been out herping a lot more since the
Yeah, I
weather
see.
warmed up.
Mhm.
So we all got to go out sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be cool to be.
He's got tears running down his face. I don't know
Yeah,
if you guys can
whatever.
see.
He's like, no one takes me herping.
Yeah.
But yeah, been good. Been chilling. Been home a lot. My mom's just got out of the hospital, so spent a
Whoa.
lot of time at home, and that's good. Yeah, I think nothing serious. It was just surgery that needed to happen, but
Gotcha.
she's doing great in recovery.
That's
Everything's
good.
perfect.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Yep.
Hell yeah.
So that was one of my questions is, before I get too old and can't walk through the woods anymore, how do I hook up with somebody to go herping? Because I don't want to go wander in the woods by myself and just start flipping rocks. And,
Where are you,
Um,
Michael?
I'm gonna
I'm
answer
in
that for you.
Orange Park, Florida.
You're in what, Florida?
Orange Park, Florida, Jacksonville.
Oh, okay. Okay. I always recommend going on I forget what it's called, but you can go on like the FWC website or even state parks and look for Florida state parks and just take a hike, man. Take a hike. If you're there early in the morning, you can find a lot of snakes crossing the trails. Or even better, if there's a wildlife management area. I think Apalachicola is a little far from you, but you can always take a drive through any wildlife management area. And that's usually a great way to find a lot of cool stuff, man. You guys got the beach next to you too. You can do that too. Sometimes I find gopher tortoises, racers, cool stuff chilling on the beach.
Nice.
You can potentially, I haven't done it, but you can find poke whips, diamondback terrapins, some really cool stuff, really cool species.
Tino, what's the name of the Herp Society in Jacksonville?
I think it's just.
I know they have a Jacksonville Herp Society.
Yeah, I think it's
the
straight
one
up that.
The Ashton, whatever that.
Ashton, that one. Yes.
Ashton's in Gainesville.
Oh, never mind.
But
Never
they-
mind.
but
They
they
go
do
to
have-
they go to the Jacksonville
They go
show.
to the
They
Jacksonville.
do. They do
Okay,
have
so-
the Rattlesnake Conservancy up there though. You can go ahead and hit them up if you want to go ahead and get some venomous hours and some venomous practice. You can work with them. And honestly, if you're in with them, you interact with them a lot, they'll take you out. They'll take you to some spots up there.
I would say to do something like that, like join like a society, join a club, or do like a volunteer kind of situation. So that way you could meet people that have like a mutual interest and hope that they decide to take you out on a couple herping.
Something that
stuff like that.
I've done a few times too, which is surprising to me, but if you're ever around like academia and stuff, like with like universities and stuff that do research, because here in Orlando with UCF, they have a herp club too, and a lot of there's a lot of majors and stuff that literally go out and do actual science, and they literally ask the club members, hey, if you guys want to come help me, just show up at this time. And like a few times we literally just went out, met up with these researchers and did actual real like science work just because they just asked us to go out with them. So if there's ever any type of like herp society that works with like students that are doing research, sometimes all you got to do is ask and they'll be able to take you out and do stuff like that.
Sometimes just research like wildlife management areas or like different nature parks or protected areas. They'll have volunteer pamphlets with opportunities to do field research. They're always looking for volunteers. So you could always like shoot them an email if you do find something and see if you can get in that way.
I was even going to recommend, since you're in Jacksonville, they have the Jacksonville University, I think. I don't know what it's called, or what's the nearest college.
That's Tallahassee, never mind.
It's not FSU, yeah. But honestly, the biology department might have a lot of people working with different PhD projects or anything of the sort. And you can always just be like, hey, I'm looking to get interested. You have students. You can be like, hey, I want to have my students go ahead and see a little bit of this. And you can recommend them to be like field hands or go yourself, anything like that.
Nice. Okay, absolutely. Yeah, I don't want to go out there by myself just in case I met the wrong reptile. So
no, sometimes when I was first starting out, you head out yourself. You just try to find what you can. It is a little sketchy, especially in Florida. Floridians are not the coolest people to encounter randomly in the wild.
Out in the wild, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's cool.
We got time for one more question. Does anybody else have a question for the squad?
We talked a little bit earlier about just a lot of the negativity, and Tino said he was more of a pessimist when it kind of comes to this kind of stuff, and I definitely identify with that side. And I'm a little disappointed Chuck is in here because he also kind of says a lot of stuff that I think in my head. But there's a lot of negativity and just craziness, and it's really hard not to get just beaten down by it. What are some things, and this kind of just goes for everybody, but like what are some things that you guys find hope in? Because sometimes when I do these educational presentations, sometimes after one of those presentations, man, a friend of mine had somebody spit on their smooth-sided toad the other day, just out of ignorance. Wow. And like, how do you guys stay hopeful and stay motivated to try and educate and incite some sort of inspiration to the public? Because sometimes it really feels like I don't want to anymore.
Yeah.
I have an answer to that.
Yeah, okay, Dan, go for it.
Okay. So I find hope in content creation. I'm not super big by any means, but sometimes I'll post a reel trying to destigmatize reptiles and other like creepy crawly animals, and I'll see how many likes they get or people commenting about how much they love these animals, and then you see the number and you're kind of like, oh, that's a lot more people caring about this than I already thought. And then I'm like, that gives me hope. Well, I'm so small. I only got like 200 followers. If I'm getting this much traction for just this tiny little silly reel, there's going to be a lot more people out there who just maybe aren't on social media or didn't come across it. I just feel like it's important to focus on like, oh, we have a bigger community than we probably even think that we do.
Yeah, I want to actually piggyback on something that you were saying with the social media stuff. So the past, for those that follow me on Instagram, the past probably year and a half, I've felt pretty burned out as far as like posting on there, and it had a lot to do with kind of like an imposter syndrome, and it was really affecting my creativity and the want to do stuff. Because I was like, oh, like, why do I really want to post? Why do I really want to do that? Like, what do I bring that is worth even like kind of like watching and, stuff like that. And I just finished recording this week 2 podcasts, Daffy's Roundtable and Blazing Blue Tongues, his podcast. And, something that they were both like talking to me about, on those 2 separate podcasts was just like, like giving me props for the stuff that I am doing, the stuff that I'm keeping like outdoors, and like the work that I'm putting in with the blue tongues. And it's just like, it doesn't matter. It made me realize that that any amount of whatever you can do to speak on the stuff that you're doing is worth it. Any amount of it. And like, you need to kind of like, in a sense, not do it for the ego, the positive and the negative, but do it with the animals in mind. And then there was also something that happened like literally like yesterday. I went with my family on a trip, and I personally never feel like a reptile person. I never do, which could be surprising. But then my niece was talking to me, and my niece was just like, "Yeah, Theo, you're a wildlife person." And I was like, "No, I'm not." And then she was like, "No, you are." And then it was just like, oh, like everything that I'm doubting is the way that I see myself, but it's maybe not the way that others might see me. So just being able to understand that no matter what size you are, no matter who you are in this thing, just the fact that you can advocate for some of these reptiles in even the most niche scenario, like that matters. That matters in just period.
I mean, for every like 50% of people that you bring in, you might not get everyone on board. But that's still more people on board than if you had never done anything at all. When you're doing those shows, You're going to get some people who are going to be very pig-headed and they're not going to listen to anything you say, but you're also going to get a bigger majority of people who are taking in that information and will come out feeling a little bit more comfortable around these animals.
Yeah. What's always worked for me, I'm a very sentimental person. So what always worked for me, especially with my last job, because it did a lot of outreach and education with kids, is that just try to make good memories with these animals, and those memories will stick, and those memories will be like kind of like the engine for whatever it is they want to do with those animals and stuff. Because I kind of had a similar thing where I was like, is what I'm doing even worth it? Like, I'm just talking to these kids, half of them aren't listening. Or even with regular people at the shows and stuff, when people come up to ask questions about the animals, it's like sometimes they walk away, it's like, you know what, I think I just wasted my time talking to them about that. But it's like, you aim small, you win small, and those small victories and stuff, you don't really see it happen, but they'll accumulate. You know, it's like passive I don't know the word is, but
the mentality is like micro effort can result in macro results. Enough of the
That's like planting that seed.
Yeah, planting the seed. Because when I look back at my experience with the animals, like one of the earliest ones is when I had a birthday party where this guy brought a bunch of animals in. That's a memory that stayed in my mind forever. That memory sparked me wanting to keep more animals. That memory sparked me into wanting to do those birthday parties. That memory sparked the interest into trying to get into educating and all that stuff, and led me to my last job and led me to my current job. So it's like
the kids that
the memory is what kind of started it all.
Those memories literally remember that forever.
Yeah.
They might not remember you, but they always remember the animal. My sister had a wildlife party when I was probably like 4 or 5 years old. That's one of my oldest memories. I don't remember the people. I remember a bobcat.
You brought a bobcat to your house?
It's Miami.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they brought a bobcat.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I remember that. I'm like, I don't remember anything else. I remember bobcat.
Yeah. And it's even a meme where it's like everyone has like there's like the whole meme about how everybody had like the same childhood. It's like, you guys remember when that one random dude would bring like big ass snakes to class that one random time at school? It's like, that stuff sticks, you know? So
and it's not so much about changing the minds of people in like either of our like age groups and stuff like that. It's really about the next generation, because they're the ones that are going to lead the charge.
You're just planting the seeds. Sometimes the plants grow, sometimes they don't. But you planted the seeds, and the ones that grow, not that you owe them the victory or whatever, but it's like you making the effort to put those seeds out there. That's why they're there.
Yeah. Sure.
So
I know Tyler and Michael, you guys have a business and a club respectively. Do you guys want to go ahead and pitch in, see what keeps you guys hopeful throughout the day to day?
Yeah, something that keeps me motivated and hopeful, especially doing like the educational shows and the schools and the birthday parties, is I kind of think about the ripple effect is what I call it. So if I can go into a school with an assembly of 100 kids, if I only touch one single kid's mind to start taking care of animals better or to have an interest, they're going to go tell all their friends, they're going to tell their parents, and for the rest of their life, they're going to make a difference towards somebody. So even if you can do an event and just have hope that one single kid's going to take that information somewhere, or one adult, or wherever your event is at, they're going to continue on the same things that you're preaching. So it's kind of just like making a bunch of little tiny changes all together. So if you go into an event and half the kids aren't listening and paying attention, but there's one kid that's terrified of snakes at the beginning and then they hold a snake at the end, I think that's more of a difference than if you do an assembly and everybody's paying attention but don't take anything from it, or comments online. Like online helps a lot. I do a lot of stuff with that, but I think that it's more about if you can make a difference in a couple people's lives, especially at a young age, they're going to go through every single person they ever talk to for the rest of their lives and promote what you're trying to get them to promote.
Well said.
So for me, I've already seen a couple of, I guess you say, victories with people overcoming their fears with these creatures that I've had in my classroom. One was I have tarantulas, and I didn't realize when this student had nightmares about spiders, but I just happened to be at a soccer game. Her parents were there, and they came up and they wanted to thank me because apparently she had stopped having these nightmares about spiders and stuff because she's been feeding my tarantulas in the club meetings.
Hell yeah.
So she's met them and understood that they're not something that would attack, So, and I've given her education about how tarantulas and spiders, they're more apt to run away than to run after you, right? They're not aggressive, right? They're more just to react to anyone trying to harm. Yeah, they're reactive. And then I've seen where students they increase their grades because they wanted to be a part of the club. They've increased their behavior. They've bettered their behavior because they want to be a part of the club and be around these animals. So that it does make a difference, and I think the parents see it. For my one of my focus is going to be trying to make sure they take better care of them. Other parents told me their child is actually cleaning the tanks and taking better care of their animals since joining the club and all that stuff. So it's making a difference. I think anytime anyone takes the time to explain, the benefit and of the animal's life and what it does in our ecosystems, that they're going to listen and realize it makes a difference.
For sure.
I'm gonna relate with Potter a little bit and take a more pessimistic route.
Oh my god! Do we have such a positive stride? I'm ready to bring this thing home.
No, yeah.
Right,
but
go. Say your pessimistic thing, and I'll
even if like, obviously, I agree with what everyone just said about a ripple effect. You do a little difference here, a little difference here. Sometimes you can make that big result happen. But there's one, and sometimes it's really, really tough nowadays, especially with a bunch of legislation that's going through, a bunch of impacts to national parks all over the U.S. All this stuff that's like, it seems really, really big. It seems really massive. Seems bigger than anything we could possibly do. There's a little analogy or a little anecdote that I like to bring up, and it's about this kid who's on a beach, and the tide has gone through, and it's all the way low, and a bunch of sea stars are stuck on the beach. They're stuck on the rocks, and they're outside of the water. And what this kid does is he starts grabbing each one and he throws them. He throws them. A man comes up behind him and he sees up and down this shore that the beach is filled with sea stars, like covered. And he asks the kid, he's like, why are you doing this? You're not making a difference. You're not making an impact. You'll never save them all. And the kid kind of looks at him, goes down, picks up a sea star, throws it back, and he goes, I made a difference for this one. And so even if your impact isn't big, like in the grand scheme of things, it's still huge for the individual animals. And so when I'm out in habitat, or I save a snake from the road, I get him off the road, pick up trash, or even just convince one person not to kill a snake in their yard, all those little things, you've made a huge impact on those individual animals' lives, and that kind of pushes every day to make it a little bit better, because if you can save at least a couple animals, help in that sense, it really does help out. It really does help out.
Pessimistic?
Yeah, that wasn't pessimistic.
Well, I mean, in the sense that you might not make a big difference in the grand scheme of things compared to you might not change so many people's minds, but at least you're making a difference for an animal. If a black racer goes through your yard, you don't kill it. Hey, you did a huge impact for that animal. You go ahead and chase away a stray cat from your yard. Hey, you made a huge difference for the frogs that live there, for the birds that are nesting there. You've helped out at least those few animals, even if there's no, ripple effect. There's no grand consequences for the rest of it.
Small,
and
win small, but win
not
big.
to mention, there's also, I will say, you're not the only boy at the shoreline. You've got at least 9 people here on this podcast that are helping out, and there's a whole bunch of people helping to put those 3 stars back.
For sure. So what I'll say to bring this to a closing is, if we're going to act like this is a community, and it really should be a community, the biggest thing is the ways that we can give back to the community. And the only 2 ways that I see is through either conservation efforts or giving back in this sense, sense of passing on your knowledge and the education.
I also think it's important to give back within your means, because I feel like a lot of the time people get caught up how that people can't donate to specific things all the time. People can't help
Volunteer their
solve
time.
bigger problems and stuff like that. But it's like focus on small things, focus on your community, because those are the people and the animals that you're directly impacting with what you do.
Yeah.
And all that, if everyone's doing that, that creates that big
Don't
wave
just take
of
from
change.
this. Don't just breed your animals and sell them and just have your profits and this and that and don't give. You got to figure out ways to give back, and that's going to be the thing that I think will give this whole thing longevity. But I want to thank all you guys so much for being here. Doing this podcast for real has probably been one of the most fulfilling things.
This one's really cool to do.
That I've done within my career within Reptiles. Thank you guys so much for spending your time with us. This was the Reptiles With Podcast.